Lawmakers flee to Washington, D.C. from Texas to deny Republicans quorum on the voting bill that's hitting the floor and a few other bills that go along with this as well. So we'll talk just a bit about what that means and what that meant, by the way, back when Act 10 was doing the same thing here in Wisconsin. So we'll go over just a little bit about that. The USDA is putting a warning on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So we'll talk just a bit about what that means as more and more people are trying to tell you that you need to get the vaccine. Mayor Leibt is welcoming a strike force from Washington, D.C. to come help with the gun violence and protest violence problem that's happening in Chicago, after she said there's absolutely no way that Trump's people will be allowed in her city. So we'll go over that in just a little bit. And a hospital in Iraq in the COVID ward catches on fire. It's going to be all this and more On YouTube only today because for whatever reason, Restream decided they were going to go under right as we were getting started here. So strap yourselves in. We've still got to get through all the news. It's going to be all this and more over on Contemporary. Hey, 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 do you trust the plan yet? I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. All right, after all that fun, we got started here. Yeah, I've been sitting back and fighting with Restream's customer support for about a half an hour at this point. I got in, went to go change the title, and realized that I got kicked out. My password didn't work. I went to go try to change the password because I thought maybe John or Steven screwed with me because they still have the temporary password that was up there. But then, yeah, no, I come to find out that Restream is down and nothing else is going on here. I even tried to sign up with a backup account to get this up and going. That's how I determined that they're down. I can't sign in. I can't hit the go live thing. The stream key is still there, so even if I couldn't sign in and change the titles, everything else should have been good, but I can't even... Goddamn housefly. Yeah, at this point, I can't even come in and change out what the... or get signed onto it. So I quick changed my stream key over to YouTube, and this is where we're going to have to go here. So if you can reach out to everybody else here, I left a message over on the DLive side, so everybody else knows what's going on here. If somebody wants to reach out to the Twitch people and let them know. Other than that, yeah, we can't get on to anything right now. So yeah, let's get into this though, and let's get started here. Before we get started, speaking of John and Steven here, head on over and check out my friends who are all going to be participating in the same new project that we all had from previous scoop. Check out all my friends, the Daily Ignoramus, the Generational Gap, the Breakdown with Breckenhoff, the Aria Conservative, and the Freckles and Brit Show. New project coming, and yes, like I said, we are all coming back. We're all going to be part of the same new project here, so come back and hang out with all my friends. Go and check all of them out and see what it is that they do, and help me support great creators. All right, let's look in at the markets here for the morning. The Dow closed at another record here at 34,996.18. That was up 0.36% from the day before. Looks like the futures might actually be falling down. We'll talk a bit about that once we get into both Market Watch and IBD. But yeah, as of this point, it looks like we were closing in, and we're closing in on 35,000. So we'll see what happens with that. On your Bitcoin is at 33,170 US dollars even, still holding kind of steady, sitting back to where we were. I don't think we're going to see that 500,000 thing that we saw last time. Chilaga, by the way, you're over on Instagram, I see that. No Twitch and no DLive today because of an error with Restream. So if you want to get back onto the YouTube, the link is in my description. But yeah, that's the reason that I'm only on Instagram right now. Or, well, you can only see me on Instagram because my other two platforms can't connect because of no Restream. All right, let's see what gas is around the Madison area. The Costco is at $2.79. Otherwise, we go up to $2.89 at the Quick Trip. 279s, 284s, and we're even up to some 294s as we get out into Sun Prairie and Madison proper. So the higher gas prices are coming. Once again, the higher gas prices are on their way. So go ahead and check that out, and hopefully you have some chance and opportunity to come back and get a little bit more gas in your tank because, well, it's going to go up, and use the cheap gas while you can, I guess. All right, from IBD, Investors Business Daily. Dow Jones futures fall, tech futures rise as earnings season kicks off. 4 tech giants in or near buy zones. This is from Scott Latonin. Dow Jones futures and S&P 500 futures were lower, while NASDAQ 100 futures rallied early Tuesday as earnings season kicked off. SPCE stock plunged 17% on Monday in a stock offering, while Tesla stock surged. On Monday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rallied 0.4%, closing just below 35,000. The S&P 500 got Reset, I guess. Thank you for that. All right, let's try this again. The S&P 500 moved up 0.3%, while the Nasdaq rose 0.2%. Dow Jones Investment Bank, Goldman Sachs, and JP Morgan kicked off earnings season Tuesday with earnings ahead of the open. Among the Dow Jones leaders, Apple lost 0.4% Monday, while Microsoft moved down 0.2%. In today's stock market, McDonald's moved down less than 0.1% and is just below a new buy point. God damn it. Tesla raced 4.35% higher on Monday as it continues to rebound from its key support levels. Virgin Galactic plunged over 17% after the company announced a $500 million stock offering. Among the top stocks to buy and watch, PayPal, Roku, Shopify, and Square are in or near buy zones. Microsoft and Shopify are IBD leaderboard stocks. Roku is an IBD swing trader stock. PayPal and Square were featured in this week's stocks near buy zone column. On the futures, ahead of the stock market open on Tuesday, Dow Jones futures fell 0.1% versus fair value, while S&P 500 futures were flat. Nasdaq 100 futures rallied 0.35% versus fair value. Remember that trading in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. Among exchange-traded funds, the Innovator IBD 50 gained 0.8%. Nasdaq 100 tracker Invesco QQQ Trust rose 0.4% Monday. Meanwhile, the SPDR S&P 500 ETF climbed 0.4%. And interesting to note, and I'm not going to go too much onto the rally off of this, but they're going to see a rally. They're going to come back and run with us here. But I've noticed that usually after we sit and watch the futures, the next thing is the coronavirus news. We have new cases. This is how many deaths there are. This is what's closing down because of all this. But, now we go to the stock market rally. McDonald's buy and watch, Goldman Sachs, Virgin Galactic test fight. There is no mention of the coronavirus anymore. It's all gone. No, it's all done. The investor said it's all done. So, I hope you enjoyed what we saw coming back out of that before, but that's where we're going to sit now. Let's look at Market Watch. Okay, let's not look at Market Watch. I don't understand how their daily... Do I just get one article a month for free? Fuck you guys. All right, let's get into the big news of the day. Starting with NBC News. Texas Democrats flee state in an effort to block GOP-backed voting restrictions. The lawmakers arrived in Washington to advocate for federal voting rights legislation, risking arrest by leaving during the special session. Now, I've got to wonder at this point what it is that they could possibly be arrested for. I do have to question that because that's I don't see something where we can be arrested for on this. Let's see what we have going on though. From Jane C. Tim. In an extraordinary effort to block Republicans from enacting new voting restrictions, Texas Democrats bolted again. A large group of Democratic members of the House arrived at Dulles International Airport on Monday evening after fleeing the state in a pair of charter jets. At least 51 members were on the flights, a source familiar with the plans told NBC News. At least 7 others were en route as well. The usual move, akin to what Democrats did in 2003, will paralyze the chamber, stopping business until the lawmakers return to town or the session ends. Speaking to reporters at the airport Monday night, the lawmakers urged Congress to quickly pass federal legislation to protect voting rights and vowed to stay in Washington, D.C. through August to run out the clock on the session, which began on Thursday. The Democrats say the For the People Act, an amended version of which Republicans filibustered in the U.S. Senate last month, is the only way they can permanently fend off election limits Republicans are advancing at the state level. No, it is not. Because, once again, as soon as we get to that point where we sit down and figure out that, no, this is unconstitutional, the For the People Act is going to be fucking gone. Our democracy is on the line, State Rep Trey Martinez-Fisher told NBC News. It became clear to us this weekend that any attempts to negotiate some Democrat concessions were cut off, making it very clear that Republicans were hell-bent on having it their way. And there's the picture of them up on the board, on a private jet too, by the way. So, climate change be damned. They couldn't go fly commercial when they went to Dulles. They had to go all get together and charter that private jet. Mainly because I'm sure they didn't want to see any of their constituents as they go. All right. The legislators Wow, that's me getting off to a good start this morning. The legislators risk arrest by taking flight under the Texas Constitution. The legislature requires a quorum of 2/3 of lawmakers to be present to conduct state business in either chamber. Absent lawmakers can be legally compelled to return to the Capitol, the source said. Democrats expect state Republicans to ask the Department of Public Safety to track them down. Republican Governor Greg Abbott, who was made tightening election rules a priority, slammed the move as a dereliction of duty. Texas Democrats' decision to break quorum of the Texas legislature and abandon the Texas state capitol inflicts harm on the very Texans who elected them to serve, Abbott said in a statement. As they fly across the country in a cushy private jet planes, they leave undone issues that can help their districts and our state. Republican House Speaker Dade Phelan vowed in a statement on Monday afternoon to use every available resource under the Texas Constitution and the unanimously passed House rules to secure a quorum. The special session clock is ticking, Phelan said. So, and there's a bunch of stuff that's coming out to here. There's a bunch of stuff to go on here. And I mean, a lot of this happens, and it's the same way that Wisconsin legislators did in Act 10 here in Wisconsin. So I just want to look at this here. This is from NPR. This is from 2011. Wisconsin Democrats flee to prevent vote on union bill. So this is just kind of looking back on a previous thing. So I mean, this is not new, and this is something I've seen before. Let me just see what NPR had to say about this at the time. A group of Democratic lawmakers in Wisconsin blocked passage of a sweeping anti-union bill Thursday by ignoring orders to attend a vote. Instead, they left the state to force Republicans to negotiate over the proposal. As ever-growing throngs of protesters filled the Capitol for a third day, the 14 Democrats disappeared from the grounds. They were not in their offices, and aides said they did not know where any of them had gone. A state police search is underway. By the way, they went to Illinois at the time. Hours later, one Democrat told the AP that the group left Wisconsin. Senator John Erpenbach said Democrats have fled to delay consideration of the bill in the hopes that Republican Governor Scott Walker and Republican lawmakers would discuss changes. The plan is to try to slow this down because it's an extreme piece of legislation that's tearing the state apart, Erpenbach told the Associated Press in a telephone interview. He refused to say where he was. Other Democratic lawmakers sent messages over Twitter and issued written statements, but did not say where they were. They were in the west suburbs. They were in Chicago. Walker, who took office last month, has made the bill a top priority. He urged the group to return and called the boycott a stunt. It's more about theatrics than anything else, Walker said, predicting that the group would come back in a day or two after realizing they're elected to do a job. Walker said Democrats could still offer amendments to change the bill, but he vowed not to concede on his plan to end most collective bargaining rights. Republicans hold a 19-14 majority in the state Senate, and they need at least one Democrat to be present before taking a vote on the bill. So, and that's one of the, it's different ways that the different parties and the different state constitutions have things run in order for, in our state constitution, in order for Republicans to bring something to the floor, they need to have at least one member of the opposite party present to take up the vote. So they can't just ram something through if no Democrats are present in the situation where it's 1914. And on the Texas side, they need to have at least 2/3 of the House in place to do so. But, I mean, these people, they look at this, and this was kind of the same thing when it went with Wisconsin, where the lawmakers were accused, and once I wasn't with them in Chicago, so I can't tell you what it was that they were doing. A lot of the more Republican members of my state came out and said, oh, they're just out partying in Chicago, they're going bar hopping, they're doing all this stuff. I don't know, I wasn't there. So I can't tell you what it was that they did, but this photo was caught almost immediately. Dan Patrick, the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, points out the fact that smiling House Dems fly off to D.C. on a private jet, a cushy private jet, with a case of Miller Lite, breaking House quorum, abandoning their constituents, while the Senate still works. It's my hope that Senate Dems report tomorrow to do what they were elected to do. We will vote on SB 1, Texas legislature, and there it is. They're really taking this seriously with that big case of Miller Lite right there. That's not a case, that's a 12-pack. In the middle of the charter bus heading out over to the private plane that they have to take them to Dulles. Take with that what you will. I don't know how you feel about that. I don't know how I feel about that, to be completely honest. But take with that what you will, and take their seriousness with the way that you will. Looking in at the Daily Wire, Governor Abbott, Democrats who fled Texas to stop democracy will be arrested immediately upon return. From Ryan Saavedra. Texas Governor Greg Abbott told Fox News on Monday night that Democrats who fled the state to stop legitimate democratic processes from being carried out by the state's legislature will be arrested the moment they step foot back in the state and haul the state capitol to do their jobs. More than 50 Democrats fled the state on a private plane, so there would not be enough legislators present for a variety of bills to be passed, including voter integrity laws, bills that protect girls from having to compete against biological males in sports, fund arrest of illegal aliens, clamp down on abortion, and crack down on racist critical race theory being taught in schools. Isn't that the most un-Texan thing you've ever heard, Texans running from a fight? They're quitters, Abbott told Fox News. It's like during a football game or baseball game, taking their equipment when they're way behind and just leaving the field. That's not the way Texas and Texans do things. We have a special sessions that last 30 days, and the governor calls them, and I will continue calling special sessions after the special session, because it's over time, it's going to continue, and until they step up to vote. Abbott continued, the thesis that they're operating under is completely false because what the Texas law doesn't hinder anybody's ability to vote. In fact, interestingly, what Texas is seeking to do is to add additional hours to vote. Texas has 12 days of early voting, and the hours which will be expanded, and we will ensure that hours are expanded on election day also. So their entire thesis is completely wrong, and compare early voting in Texas with early voting that we have in Delaware. Texas has 12 days of early voting. Delaware has 0 days of early voting. Why am I picking on Delaware? Because that's where the president himself voted in the last election. And if anyone wants to talk about voter suppression, they should be talking about Delaware, not Texas. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they haven't written the law. Now, I do want to point out the fact, and this is something that I've talked about on numerous occasions, when we look at something like this, what we look at is the fact that these people were elected to do a job to represent the constituencies of their Democrat cities. So, I have a problem. Now, yes, under the Constitution, they can be arrested for this, because they are required to be there to go back and do that, and the Constitution is very written by it. But I do also understand the fact that, in a way, even though they're not being in the legislature representing directly their constituents, they are still there representing the needs. Their constituents, however misinformed, want this bill to be stopped. So them running off to Delaware is stopping the bill in its tracks. Yes, it's unconstitutional. Yes, it's against the law. Yes, they can probably face some jail time for this, but they are doing what their constituents want. So I'm a little bit torn on this one to see how it goes. And it was the same thing with Act 10, too. As much as I agreed with Act 10, that was the thing, is that the Democrats in the state of Wisconsin were doing what their constituents wanted. Once again, however misinformed it was, because most of their constituents were working on the basis of what the mainstream media told them, not what was actually in Act 10. But, yeah. Alright, so that's what's happening out in Texas here. Let's look in at another particular representative here. A fight broke out at Representative Katie Porter's California Town Hall, reports say, from Jake LaHoot. This comes to us from Yahoo News via Business Insider. In her first in-person town hall since the commie coup began, Democratic Representative Katie Porter of California rushed to the scuffle that broke out between protesters and supporters, the LA Times and other outlets reported. The outdoor event in Irvine, California ended in punches being thrown and men falling to the ground, the Times reported. Porter intervened to protect an elderly woman close to the fight by wrapping her arms around her, the Times reported. Injuries from the scuffle sounded minor. Sergeant Carrie Davies of the Irvine Police Department said. She added that one Porter supporter, wow, that would get a tongue twister in a hurry, one Porter supporter was arrested and that officers took down a report for assault and battery. The Porter supporter was later released on a citation, police said. Porter has gained a higher profile than most in Congress, consistently going viral for her grilling of big business executives and government officials during hearings, and her signature whiteboard. From the outset of the town hall, Porter asked constituents to be respectful and to keep the volume down in the name of civil discourse. This is an outdoor activity. We have lots of wind, she said, the Times reported. So I'm going to ask that everyone, regardless of your views, try to keep your voices down and be quiet so we can have a conversation. Her 3 children were also in attendance, but the event started to go off the rails when a group of hecklers began shouting, "Carpetbagger Katie" and "Corrupt Katie Porter." The interruptions continued throughout a variety of topics, the Times reported. Porter supporters came back at the hecklers with chants of "Katie, Katie, Katie" before some confronted the protesters. Irvine police officers stepped in to break up the fight once punches were thrown and separated the 2 groups. In a statement released after the town hall, Porter vowed to continue holding the events so she can be available to constituents. My team and I are evaluating the next steps, but my promise to Orange County families is that I will continue to hold town halls and to be in conversation with them, Porter said. So, it doesn't look like, according to the Business Insider, it looks like the Porter supporters were the one that started this. But I'm sure with a lot of people in there, protesters and counter-protesters alike, it would be almost impossible to come out and tell who was the aggressor in this situation. I kind of wish that there was video of this one. I haven't seen one yet, but we'll see if the CNN article gives us one. Of course, CNN's going to say that it was the protesters. They were QAnon people, and they just came in because they wanted to start a fight. Look how violent those evil Drumpler supporters are. And let's see what they do have to say. From CNN, Katie Porter responds to scuffle that broke out at her California town hall event, from Annie Grayer. Democrat Rep. Katie Porter of California responded to a scuffle that broke out at an event she held in her district on Sunday between protesters and attendees, claiming that the incident was premeditated by her opponents. At our town halls, we take steps such as putting all questions into a bingo ball spinner so that we hear all voices, not just the loudest ones. It's disappointing that a small but vocal group of attendees who advertised a confrontation rally created unsafe conditions at a planned family-friendly event, Porter said in a statement provided to CNN. Ahead of Porter's event, Nick Torres, who says that he plans to run against Porter in the midterm election, posted on Instagram that he wanted his supporters to join him at the town hall to confront Katie Porter. Since the incident, Torres said on Instagram that he and his followers were attacked by rabid leftists at the town hall and alleged that Porter only took pre-selected questions. Well, if they're only going into a bingo ball, what's to stop people from looking at the question and saying, "Oh, this is from a Republican. That's gone. Fuck that." Porter said in a statement to CNN that her team is evaluating how to keep her events safe going forward. By denying people that don't agree with her, a continued challenge for members who face heightened security threats while in their home districts. While I absolutely respect their right to disagree, their disturbance disrespected all the families who attended and were ready to engage in thoughtful, civil, and safe way. My team and I are evaluating next steps, but my promise to Orange County families is that I will continue to hold town halls and be in conversation with them, Porter continued. Now, as far as Katie Porter goes, and once again, even with CNN, this looks like they are taking a somewhat objective side to this. Of course, they're going to support Katie Porter off of this because, she's their little darling over on CNN. But from the looks of it, this is objective enough to say that, we can see this from both sides and we don't know who threw the first punch. And I know that Katie Porter, I don't know if she's ever been to one of these protests, but it's a dangerous situation to come in when you start to tell Republicans that their protests are making people unsafe, when Democrats sit back and report every single public appearance that a Republican has ever gone and done. They go back constantly and protest them, do sit-ins, shout shame. And it's the same thing that we saw with the Act 10, just like I cited before, with the Texas Quorum, and the damage that was done to the Wisconsin state capitol while protesters occupied that capitol. I'm sure a lot of Republican members of the House and State Senate, or the Assembly rather, and State Senate, felt very unsafe with the fact that protesters were occupying the Capitol, causing millions of dollars in damages, by the way. But that wasn't a terroristic act. Only the one that happened at the Capitol Selfie Fest, only that was a terroristic act. So, if this is the route that we want to go, then we need We need to keep Democrats out of Republican town hall events too, because they do the same thing. They don't end in violence, but you have that air of tensions that could be coming off at any given point. It's also interesting to see that we don't see violence when the Democrat protesters go to a Republican event. But once Republican protesters go to a Katie Porter event, suddenly it winds up in fisticuffs. So it's interesting to see. I don't care for Katie Porter. I really don't. But if she's innocent in all this, I'm not going to sit back and throw the blame at her either. So we will see where this goes and what happens with this. Let's listen to the redhead bobblehead coming in, talking about the onslaught of voter suppression laws in red states, the worst challenge to our democracy since the Civil War. Let's have a listen.
His strategy to tackle this issue beyond the speech tomorrow?
Sure. Well, first, thank you for the question, because he's very focused on this speech tomorrow, one that he himself wanted to deliver. He'll lay out the moral case for why denying the right to vote is a form of suppression and a form of silencing, and how he will redouble his commitment to using every tool at his disposal to continue to fight to protect the fundamental right of Americans to vote against the onslaught of voter suppression laws based on a dangerous and discredited conspiracy theory that culminated in an assault on our Capitol. He'll call out the greatest irony of the big lie is that no election in our history has met such a high standard, with over 80 judges, including those appointed by his predecessor, throwing out all challenges. He'll also decry efforts to strip the right to vote as authoritarian and anti-American, and stand up against the notion that politicians should be allowed to choose their voters or to subvert our system by replacing independent election authorities with partisan ones. And he will highlight the work of the administration against this, the necessity of passing the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, and how we need to work together with civil rights organizations to build as broad a turnout and voter education system to overcome the worst challenge to our democracy since the Civil War. So this is an opportunity for him to make the case to the American people about how this is a fundamental right.
Yes. The wonderful Jen Psaki, that's her job, is to go up and lie to the American people about what's actually happening in this country. Johnny Fox, I got one question. How does she already know the answers to the questions she's getting asked? She already has the answers written down, what these questions have to be vetted before they go to the press room to be asked? Or do they all get together and rehearse questions and answer? I'm going to guess it's actually probably the latter. They go out, sit down at the bar, have a bunch of Miller Lite, and say, okay, I'm going to ask you this question. Get yourself prepared to answer. Hey, you want to try and run this on me right now? But, these aren't voter suppression laws. They continue to come out and peddle this lie that this is voter suppression. This is not voter suppression. Vote early and vote often. It's a meme, but it's not reality. All right, from the Hill, Biden to make moral case for voting rights in Tuesday's speech. So we'll be talking a lot about this tomorrow from Brett Samuels. President Biden will be using a speech on voting rights on Tuesday to make the moral case for passing legislation to protect access to the ballot amid a flurry of new laws in GOP-led states that critics argue will make it more difficult to vote, the White House said on Monday. Biden will condemn the rhetoric from former President Trump and his allies that the 2020 election was stolen, a claim that has been rejected by dozens of judges and state-level officials, and that he will push for Congress to pass voting rights legislation, Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters. He'll lay the moral case for why denying the right to vote is a form of suppression and a form of silencing, and he will redouble his commitment to using every tool at his disposal to fight to protect the fundamental right of Americans to vote against the onslaught of voter suppression laws based on a dangerous and discredited conspiracy theory that culminated in the assault on our Capitol, Psaki said, referencing the January 6th selfie fest. He'll call out the greatest irony of the big lie that no election in our history has met such a high standard, with over 80 judges, including those appointed by his predecessor, throwing out all challenges, Psaki added. He'll also decry efforts to strip the right of vote as authoritarian and anti-American, and stand up against the notion that politicians should be allowed to choose their voters, or subvert our system by replacing independent election authorities with partisan ones. But Biden, making the first major address on the issue since the For the People Act stalled in the Senate and Supreme Court, upheld new voting regulations in Arizona, is not expected to reveal any new policy proposals or shift position on the filibuster. The For the People Act, a sweeping elections reform bill that Democrats have talked up as the top legislative priority, failed to garner a single GOP vote in the Senate and does not appear to have a path to passage. Biden is facing immense pressure from progressives and voting rights advocates to do more to push Congress to pass voting rights protections. Many progressives have called for Biden and other Democrat holdouts to support altering or abolishing the legislative filibuster in the Senate, which requires 60 votes for a piece of legislation to advance. James Clyburn, a close Biden ally, said Sunday that he would like to see an exemption to the filibuster for an issue like voting rights. Then why keep the filibuster? If you just make an exemption to anything that you want to come in and be broken by that, that's authoritarianism. That's tyranny. If you can't sell your idea to your opposition, then your idea fucking sucks. And I say this to both sides too, by the way, because Democrats love to use that filibuster until it turned around and started getting used the fuck back against them. They loved to use the filibuster when Trump was the one who was going to be signing the laws. And the Turtle Man was the one that was flapping his fucking gullet and saying, well, you know, as long as we've got the House and the Senate, we're going to try to pass whatever it is that we can. They loved to use the filibuster at that time. But now that it's being used against them, they think they're going to have this 1,000-year magical Fourth Reich of unyielding power. And no, that's not the way that this works. And yeah, I'm glad the filibuster's there. And I know it's not in the Constitution, but I'm glad it was put into the Senate rules. I wish they would put it back for judges. I don't like the fact, and I for the most part like the judges that they put up, but I hate the fact that McConnell was able to jump up and just jam through Trump judges based on what Harry Reid did. Because you should be able to sell your Supreme Court justices to the other side. I don't want to see a situation where federal judges are put in by a 52-vote majority. I want to see judges or justices like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We talked about her when she died, and she was passed by the Supreme Court, or by the Senate rather, with a 91-8 majority in the Senate. I want to see more of that. People that can be sold to the other side, not this partisan bickering bullshit. And if that does stop the government from functioning, I'm a happy guy. I really am. But now that they've got the simple majority, they're going to do whatever they can to cram their agenda down your fucking throats. All right, from Yahoo News. Where does Biden's agenda stand in Congress? Here's a rundown. It's dead on fucking arrival. I don't even have to read this article and I can tell you it's DOA. From Sahil Kapoor. President Biden's agenda on Capitol Hill is off to a mixed start. He scored a major early victory with the passage of a $1.9 trillion commie fucking coup relief bill and a stimulus law. He has been fighting to follow that up with a major investment in infrastructure expansions of the social safety net, climate change mitigation, and tax increases on the wealthy. Those goals have potential in large part because the Democrat-controlled Congress can pass them with or without Republicans. Tax increases on the wealthy is tax increases on you, by the way. I hope you guys know that. But other priorities, like addressing gun safety, overhauling immigration, and bolstering voting rights, have hit dead ends because of the Senate filibuster and, in some cases, Democratic divisions in a Congress in which the party has wafer-thin margins in both chambers. Biden's biggest legislative success has been the COVID-19 relief law, which bolstered resources for vaccine distribution, authorized $1,400 checks for most Americans, and more. As much of the U.S. has gotten vaccinated, coronavirus deaths have plummeted, and much of the economy has reopened, and voters give Biden high marks for his handling of the commie fucking coup. But some of Biden's safety net provisions were included in the COVID-19 relief law, including a boost in the ACA subsidies and a major Cash for Kids allowance of $3,600 per child. But that's just the beginning of what he wants, and he'll need more legislation to make them permanent. Another area in which Biden's agenda is succeeding is judges, buoyed by the fact that nominees aren't subject to filibusters, meaning Republicans can't stop him. Led by Majority Leader Charles U. Schumer of New York, Democrats have hit the ground running and confirmed 7 so far, 2 circuit judges and 5 district judges. There are 76 vacancies on circuit and district courts. Democrats are bracing for a potential Supreme Court retirement. Although it's not clear whether or not one might occur, all judges require 50 senators to confirm. So as long as Democrats stick together, Republicans can't stop Biden. And that's the other part that I fucking hate. No, sell your judges. Tell your opposition, especially on a razor-thin margin like that, tell your opposition, this is why I like this guy. Can I have your vote? And if your opposition says, no, fuck you, then your judge probably sucks, or you didn't do a good enough job selling him. This partisan bullshit needs to stop. I mean, I'm all for eliminating budget reconciliation at this point. I really am. Biden's infrastructure plans are a live ball. A group of 10 senators have struck a bipartisan deal for an extra $579 billion to fund roads and bridges, transit, and other physical infrastructure projects, but it still needs to be written and secure a majority in the House and a supermajority in the Senate. And its fate is tied to Biden's larger safety net expansion, as Nancy Pelosi has said the House will vote on both after they pass the Senate. And they're not going to pass the Senate. The larger bill would fund what Biden calls human infrastructure, in-home elder care, paid leave, 2 years of free community college. The vehicle is a reconciliation bill that can evade the filibuster, which Democrats hope to start moving this month. So yeah, they're going to blow their wad on the budget reconciliation for the big bill, but they're going to tie it off to the infrastructure bill. Well, the infrastructure bill is probably not going to happen. They'll probably reconciliation out the big bill, but yeah, that's what's coming up here. Biden's estimated $3.6 trillion in tax increases on the corporations, and the wealthy is also in flux. Yeah, they can't do that one either. That's not in flux. Biden's agenda is imperiled on policies that are subject to the 60-vote threshold in the Senate, where Democrats have 50 members and continue to struggle to achieve GOP cooperation. $15 an hour, DOA, equal pay legislation is already there. It's already the law. But they're going to try to make it extra equal because some animals are more equal than others. That shit's gone. Gun control, gone. Immigration bill, gone. Voting rights bill, gone. Yeah. Yeah, this is all DOA. And everything else that they have that they can only do, it's judges and budget reconciliation. That's all that they have right now. All right. So that's what we see for that. From CBS. I got to push back on Helton over here in a second because I see this over here. I see the argument. Those who want free stuff can't go live among themselves because they have to get their free stuff from you. See how this works? They can't just keep their free stuff. They've got to get it from people like you, people who work for a living. All right, Fauci says it's inexplicable some Americans aren't getting vaccinated despite the data. I can't wait, after reading this headline, to get down to this Reuters one. I might skip these two in the middle, just to go right for the Reuters one. No, we got to read these two because then we got to go right to the Reuters one. All right, this is from Melissa Quinn on Face the Nation. The patron saint of medicine, Dr. Anthony Fauci, hallowed be his name, chief medical advisor to President Biden, said Sunday it's almost inexplicable that some Americans continue to resist getting vaccinated against COVID-19 despite information showing those who have not received their shots are at a higher risk of becoming infected, especially as the Delta variant spreads. It's almost inexplicable why people, when they see the data in front of them, that when they don't get vaccinated, Fauci said in an interview with Face the Nation. Nearly 68% of American adults have received at least one dose of the pinko fucking pox jab, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, but a new coronavirus infections and hospitalizations have begun to tick up as the new Delta variant has become the dominant strain of the coronavirus in the U.S. Dr. Rochelle Walensky, head of the CDC, said Thursday the latest data reveals two truths about the state of the pandemic in the nation. Where vaccination rates are high, cases, hospitalizations, and deaths remain low, and in areas with low vaccination rates, those numbers are increasing. Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, warned Sunday that the Delta variant, is transmitted much more easily and readily and efficiently than other coronavirus variants, and said that 99.5% of all deaths due to the common cough are in unvaccinated people. Yeah, they're probably cooking the books for that too, I'm not going to lie. You're talking about something that's life-saving, he said about the vaccines. The idea of the way that some people, for whatever reason, and we know some of them are ideological, we know when you look geographically in the situations where you have under-vaccinated states, where you have 30% or less of the people vaccinated, we've really got to get beyond that, and we've got to put those kinds of differences aside and say this is a public health issue. So, Fauci says, you have to get vaccinated. Fauci says, isn't that how the game is played? It's not Simon Says anymore, it's Fauci Says. In addition, from Politico, potentially a death sentence. White House goes off on vaccine fearmongers. From Natasha Korecki and Eugene Daniels. The Biden admin is casting a conservative opponents of its Commie-Coup vaccine program as dangerous and extreme, adopting more aggressive political posture in an attempt to maneuver through the public health conundrum. The White House has decided to hit back harder on misinformation and scare tactics after Republican lawmakers and conservative activists pledged to fight the admin's stated plans to go door-to-door to increase vaccination rates. The pushback will include directly calling out social media platforms and conservative news shows that promote such tactics. The big misinterpretation is that Fox News or whomever else is saying, oh, that's Fauci. The big misinterpretation is that Fox News or whomever else is saying that they're essentially envisioning a bunch of federal workers knocking on your door, telling you that you've got to do something and you don't want to do. Anthony Fauci, President Biden's chief medical advisor, said in an interview on Sunday that that's absolutely not the case. It's trusted messengers who are part of the community doing that, not government officials. So that's where I think the disconnect is. I'm telling you right now. And I found this out last night while I was talking more about the door-to-door vaccination program. They're coming to your door with fucking needles. And they want you to get vaccinated on your front porch. No. No, 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 no. No. No, 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 no. That's not going to happen. If somebody's coming to my door with a needle, I'm going to assume that person's a fucking heroin addict. Sully's over on Instagram right now. Sully, there's no DLive and there's no Twitch today because Restream is being a little bitch. So we're all on, it's all on YouTube right now. So you can check the YouTube channel up here if you want to get the news behind me as you usually do. Peeping to say shoo-de-loo, Mrs. Doubtfire voice. Thanks, Sully. Anyway, and thanks you guys over on YouTube too, by the way. Everybody jumped over to YouTube after Restream was having a problem. You guys rock. All right. Fauci took some of that messaging to Sunday cable news shows, including underscoring the idea that door-to-door vaccination efforts are an attempt to remove barriers and access that 99.5% of deaths due to COVID are among people who are unvaccinated. Those data kind of hit you right between the eyes, Fauci said, of the fatalities. Beyond Fauci, Press Secretary Jen Psaki has pushed back on Georgia Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene, the plant, a lawmaker she once said she'd not mention from the podium, who compared the administration's vaccine campaign to Nazis. Jeff Zients, the White House COVID response director, rebuked Republican Missouri Governor Mike Parson, who contended falsely in a tweet that government agents are going door-to-door to compel vaccination. Oh yes. She's not going to mention Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is there specifically to go into the news and make Republicans look bad. She's a plant. She's going to mention her all the fucking time. And furthermore, when you're doing this whole thing of, oh, he has the vaccine. Where are you unvaccinated? Are they in the attic? Let us see you unvaccinated. Are they under the floorboards? Are they in the closet? No. No, 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 no. No. Biden allied groups, including Democratic National Committee, are also planning to engage fact-checkers more aggressively and work with SMS carriers to dispel information about vaccines that is sent over social media and text messages. That's going to be interesting because that's on a later article as well. Let me see if I can find that because we're going to move that up to the top if that's going to be the case, if they're going to talk about this. Yeah, we're moving that up to the top. Let's bring that up here, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. The goal is to ensure that people who may have difficulty getting a vaccination because of issues like transportation see those barriers lessened or removed entirely. We are steadfastly committed to keeping politics out of the effort to get every American vaccinated, in spite of the fact the campaign is entirely political. So we can save lives and help our economy further recover, White House spokesperson Kevin Munoz said. When we see deliberate efforts to spread misinformation, we want to view that as an impediment to the country's public health and will not shy away from calling that out. The pushback is a change of tone and approach from earlier this year, when the White House often chose to ignore the most vocal conservative critics out of a desire not to elevate them. It is a tacit acknowledgement that the July 4th goal of 70% vaccination nationwide was overly optimistic, if not naive, and it underscores two realities are setting in. It's becoming more difficult to convince vaccine skeptics to get their shots. At least 10 vaccinated states were all won by Donald Trump in 2020. And the anti-vaccine voices, already vocal to the country, are becoming more mainstream by Republicans eager to oppose Biden-led initiatives. That's it right there. And you've been trained for this your entire life. You have been trained for this, right from the beginning. If anybody's hesitant to take a vaccine, even the polio vaccine, even the MMR, they're anti-vax and they're weird people. You've been trained for this since you were kids. So, yes, they're coming out and, once again, going door to door, telling you it's misinformation and that everybody who... the problem is the fear-mongers who tell you the vaccine might be dangerous. Also, from CNN. It's not just about you. Experts say getting a COVID vaccine protects everyone around you. From Elaine Orju and Holly Yan. And that's where they're gonna kick you in the nuts over it, too. It's not about you. It's just like the mask. It's not about you. It's about you're gonna kill grandma if you don't get the vaccine. Defeating this commie coup and the highly contagious Delta variant isn't just about protecting yourself through vaccination. It's also about having others in the community vaccinated, doctors say. Even if you're vaccinated, if you're living in an area with high rates of COVID-19 spread, and with the Delta variant surging, there's a chance you could become infected. Well, then your vaccine doesn't do shit! If you could still get infected, and it's that big of a deal, let me rephrase that. If it's such a big deal that's not just a statistical noise, that they have to come out and tell you about this, then your vaccine doesn't do jack fucking shit. And you know that, by the way. There is a chance that you could become infected, says emergency physician Dr. Leanna Wen, visiting professor at George Washington University's Milken Institute School of Public Health. The Delta strain is the most transmissible coronavirus variant identified so far. The head of the World Health Organization said it's about 40% to 60% more transmissible than the highly contagious Alpha variant, according to the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control. The U.S., the Delta variant has spread to every state and is now responsible for more than 50% of COVID cases, the CDC said. In some parts of the country, this percentage is even higher, especially in areas with low vaccination rates, the CDC said. This rapid rise is concerning and threatens the progress like the U.S. has made towards ending the pandemic. As the Delta variant keeps spreading, we know that there's a risk of breakthrough infection among fully vaccinated people, Wen said, so even if you're vaccinated, you could still get infected. The safest thing is for everyone around you, even if you're vaccinated, to also be vaccinated as well. None of that makes sense. None of what you have put here has made sense so far. And once again, I mean, we learned what vaccines do as we were kids. We all learned how this all works. But they're going to tell you, it's not about you. It's about the other people. But then this comes out. From Reuters, U.S. puts new warning on Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccine for autoimmune disorder. From Michael Ehrman, the U.S. FDA on Monday added a warning to the fact sheet for Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine, saying that data suggests there's an increased risk of a rare neurological disorder in the 6 weeks after inoculation. Oh, really? Oh, really? This untested vaccine has a rare risk of a side effect that's neurological in nature? You know what the anti-vax idiots have been telling us for years? That there's this rare risk for this from getting this vaccine? And the warning is on there? Oh, you don't say. Look. I'm going to tell you this right now. If you want to get the vaccine, get the vaccine. I'm not going to think any less of you. I know a lot of my friends are. They're going to think you're a sheep. Some of you guys out in the live chat are going to think less of the people who go out in the vaccine. Dude, if you want to get the vaccine, do it. If you don't want to get the vaccine, don't do it. It's as simple as that. You are a member of a free nation. The government can't compel you to put anything in your body as much as they think that they can. So, and I know people out there, like the Foo over on Twitter. Politibunny has come out and said that she got fully vaccinated. I'm like, okay, don't make me do it. I don't care if you got vaccinated. I don't. But the warning is out there. You accept the risks of everything that's going to come from this based on what they know is going to happen and the human trials that are going on right now for this. You accept the inherent risks. It's the same as right to try. And I've always supported the right to try. It doesn't even have to be in somebody who's terminally ill. If this new treatment comes out and it's experimental and it might help you for chronic neck pain, for chronic heartburn for that matter, for muscle aches, for a limp, for anything else like that, if you think it'll work and you want to be the human guinea pig for it, you should have the right to do so. It's the same thing with this vaccine. If you want to be the human guinea pig for this vaccine, then do so. It's your choice. But accept and understand the risks that are out there. I understand the risks that are out there for this, and I don't accept them, so I'm not taking the vaccine. In a letter to the company, the FDA classified the chances of getting Guillain-Barré syndrome after vaccination as being very low. Still, it said the Johnson & Johnson vaccine recipients should seek medical attention if they have symptoms including weakness or tingling sensations, difficulty walking, or difficulty with facial movements. Around 12.8 million people have received Johnson & Johnson's one-dose vaccine in the U.S. The FDA said 100 preliminary reports of GBS in the vaccine recipients include 95 serious cases that required hospitalization and one reported death. Johnson & Johnson said in a statement that it was in discussion with regulators about cases of GBS. It says the rate of reported cases of GBS in J&J vaccine recipients exceeds the background rate only by a small degree. So, I mean, we're going to come to this point, and the fact that, like I said, they pushed this out. I do believe that we're going to come to a point where we start seeing the TV commercials on daytime television. If you got the Moderna vaccine and you have this side effect and this side effect and this side effect ongoing, you may be entitled to compensation. Call, Gruber Law Offices now, and we will represent you. The warning is another setback for the Johnson & Johnson shot, which was supposed to be an important tool for vaccinating in hard-to-reach areas among these hesitant to be vaccinated, because it requires only one shot and has less stringent storage requirements than the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. But use of the vaccine has already been linked to a very rare, potentially life-threatening blood clotting condition, and slowed by production problems at the main plant where it was being made. So, yeah, a lot of stuff going on here. And yeah, the information is out there. Once again, if you want to get it, the information's in front of you. You can make an educated decision at this point. All right, from the Blaze, and we just moved this one up a little bit because it's relevant at this point. Democrats are pressuring companies to censor text messages about Biden's pandemic response. And apparently the vaccine hesitancy as well, as we read in the Politico article from Carlos Garcia. Allies of President Joe Biden are pressuring phone companies to censor text messages that might carry disinformation about the administration's response to the pandemic. No! The Biden admin is taking more aggressive actions against what they consider to be disinformation from critics on the right, according to the Politico report. And it kicked us down to the bottom. Left-wing groups, including the Democratic National Committee, are planning to also engage fact-checkers to fight back against dissenting voices. The administration faced angry blowback after Biden said on Tuesday that the government would go door-to-door to encourage Americans to get vaccinated with needles in their hands. To encourage Americans to get vaccinated. He admitted that he was unable to fulfill his goal of vaccinating 70% of Americans by the 4th of July. In response, many on the right accused Biden of tyrannical government overreach, but Fauci replied Sunday by accusing them of misinterpreting Biden's program. The big misinterpretation is that Fox News or whomever else is saying that they're essentially envisioning a bunch of federal workers knocking on your door, telling you that you've got to do something you don't want to do, said Fauci, the president's chief medical advisor. No, see, it's your fault because you're not supposed to not want to do it. You're evil because you don't want to do it. You might kill grandma. It's absolutely not the case. It's trusted messengers who are part of the community doing that. Yeah, we read that already. Fuck you. You Italian little prick. White House spokesman Kevin Munoz said that the administration would become more vocal about calling out critics. We're steadfastly committed. This is Munoz. We're steadfastly committed to keeping politics out of the effort to get every American vaccinated so we can save lives. Yeah, we read this one here. The suggestion that Democrats would seek censorship on text messages also received immediately blowback on social media. Please tell me this is a typo, replied Thomas Massey. Yikes and dear God, responded former Trump ambassador Richard Grenell. The great war on information continues. Your mind is the prize, said another critic. Natasha Kordecki, one of the writers of the Political Report, responded to one critic by pointing out that it was private groups working with the companies, not the White House itself. Even then, there's no ability for groups to read individual texts aside from the ones they receive themselves, she added. Yeah, no, your phone company sees every text message and every fucking dick pic that you put out there. Just so you know, and yeah, at this point, if they have to go back through them, they're not a utility anymore. They're a private company, and they're open to all the publisher notes that because they're publishers at that point. It's not a utility, and this is draconian fucking stuff. You can't even make private messages outside of your social media without being censored. This is getting to some Animal Farm level shit. I'm telling you. So, yeah, they want to censor your text messages. There it is. And they're saying it. All right, from the Hill. What do we got left? Half the show still? New Johns Hopkins map shows COVID-19 cases rising across America. This is from Jenna Romaine for Changing America. Cases of COVID-19 and its variant strains are rising across the U.S. according to new coronavirus map from Johns Hopkins. According to the CDC, there are currently 37.4 new cases per 100,000 people nationwide this week, up from 28.7 cases per 100,000 just last week. Specific states and areas are largely responsible for a majority of the new cases. For example, Missouri has seen a nearly 70% increase in coronavirus cases in the past week with 161.7 new cases per 100,000. The state has one of the lowest vaccination rates in the country with only 7.09% of its population fully vaccinated. The national average of fully vaccinated residents is 55.4%. Meanwhile, Vermont is reporting the fewest new coronavirus cases in the country, with only 33 new cases per week, or 5.3 per 100,000. The state has the highest vaccination rate in the country, with 60.27% of the population being fully vaccinated. I'm sure those numbers aren't being cooked either. I'm sure those numbers are completely legitimate, and nobody's trying to change the numbers for a political agenda. Honk honk. As the Delta variant continues to spread, however, even some states with above average vaccination rates are experiencing small surges in new cases. Last week, Mass, which has a vaccination rate of 58.65%, surged from 65 new cases today per 298. Oh, yes, of course. Massachusetts, where the only good thing they've done is a baseball team. So yes. You stopped masking too soon, you guys. You got to put your mask back on because we're gonna have the new variant. All right, we got to shift gears here. Let's get off the comic coup for a second. Let's go talk about something else here. Edwin Edwards, former Louisiana governor who dominated state politics before going to prison, dead at 93. To Fox News via the Associated Press. Edwin Washington Edwards, the high-living four-term governor whose 3 decades dominance of Louisiana politics was all but overshadowed by scandal and an 8-year federal prison stretch, died Monday. He was 93. Edwards died of respiratory problems with family and friends at his bedside. Family spokesman Leo Honeycutt said he suffered bouts of ill health in recent years and entered hospice care this month at his home in Gonzales, near the Louisiana capital. I've lived a good life. Had better breaks than most, but some bad breaks too, but that's all part of it. I tried to help as many people as I could, and I hope that I did that. And I hope, if I did, that they'll help others. I love Louisiana, and I always will, Edwards said in some of his last words, according to Honeycutt's statement. Earlier in the week, the former governor also said, I made no bones that I've considered myself on borrowed time for 20 years, and we each know that this fun has to end at some point for him. That time was shortly after daybreak this morning, the statement said. A native of Louisiana's Acadiana region, who swore his 1972 oath of office in French and English. Edwards enjoyed renewed popularity after emerging from prison in 2011. At age 83, his quick wit and flamboyant character intact. He married Trina Grimes, then 32. Based. His third wife, they met when she began visiting him in prison after they struck up a pen pal relationship. Based. I would have walked into prison a happy man had I known this was how it was going to end, he said at his lavish 90th birthday bash in August of 2017. They had a son, Eli, in 2013, and starred in a short-lived reality TV show. The governor's wife, the lifelong Democrat, also attempted a political comeback, losing a runoff to a Republican in South Louisiana congressional district in 2014. The federal case that led to his May 2000 conviction involved a state riverboat casino licenses awarded during and after his fourth and final term in the 90s. Edwards maintained the case was built on misinterpreted, secretly taped conversations and the lies of former cronies who made the deals to avoid jail. So, yeah, it looks like it was corruption. I don't know what happened. I was too young to be paying attention to politics at the time, so maybe he did it, maybe he didn't, but, I mean, based as hell that he snagged a wife 50 years younger than him. Based. But, yeah, at this point, F's in the chat and Godspeed to Edwin Edwards. From CNN, U.S. warns China it stands behind South China Sea ruling and is committed to Philippine defense. Ooh, that's not going to make your handlers very happy. Anthony Blinken has reaffirmed the U.S.'s commitment to defend the Philippines' armed forces from attack in South China Sea under a 70-year-old mutual defense treaty. Blinken made the comments on Sunday in a statement marking the 5th anniversary of a ruling by an independent arbitration tribunal rejecting China's expansive territorial claims over the waterway, siding with the Philippines. Tensions in the South China Sea, which also contested by Brunei, Malaysia, Taiwan, and Vietnam, have ratcheted up this year, with Manila accusing Beijing of trying to intimidate its Coast Guard vessels, as well as sending in so-called maritime militia to crowd out Philippine fishing boats. The U.S. top diplomat said the U.S. could invoke the U.S.-Philippine Mutual Defense Pact in the event any Chinese military action against Philippine assets in the region. No, the U.S.'s top diplomat said, Jill, where are my pants? Remember, the president is the top diplomat. We also reaffirmed that an armed attack on the Philippine Armed Forces, public vessels, or aircraft in the South China Sea could invoke U.S. mutual defense commitments under Article 4 of the 1951 U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty, Blinken said. You guys ready to go to war? You guys ready to get drafted? Because, yeah, we're about there. I think whoever bet on China might be the one who's getting it. So, yeah, that's something that's going on out on the other side of the world that involves us and our military. Hey, let's pull out of the Middle East and Afghanistan so we can go right into China. Aren't you excited? Here's an interesting one after the thing that we saw yesterday from Brian Nichols, with Lightfoot first saying that Trump's shock troops are not going to be allowed anywhere near Chicago, and then turning around saying, "We need help with the gun violence over here in Chicago. Federal government, please help." From Fox 32, local station out of Chicago, Biden sending strike force to Chicago to help curb spike in violent crime. From Audrey Conklin. President Joe Biden's strike force, meant to help curb crime in Chicago and 4 other cities, seeing a surge in violence, is expected to come to the Windy City relatively soon, Mayor Lori Lightfoot said earlier this week. The Justice Department announced new strike forces in June, which are supposed to curb violent crime in Chicago, New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. by helping leaders crack down on illegal gun trafficking. My hope and my expectation is that they're going to be coming relatively soon. I've made no secret of the fact that this is a matter of incredible urgency, and I think the president's plan is to make a difference in localities like Chicago this summer, Lightfoot told reporters Wednesday as she met with Biden outside O'Hare Airport. The strike force teams will coordinate with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, which should be a convenience store, and share information with local and state law enforcement agencies about where firearms originate and where they're used to commit crimes in an effort to bring down gun-dealing rings. Biden's meeting with Lightfoot came after more than 100 people were shot and 19 killed over 4th of July weekend in Chicago, the city's most violent weekend this year. It also came hours after 2 ATF officials and a Chicago police officer were shot early Wednesday while on duty in an unmarked law enforcement vehicle on the city's far south side. I'm guessing the vehicle wasn't as unmarked as you think it was. Lightfoot has come under increasing pressure to take action. The mayor campaigned as a public safety expert and on Tuesday vowed that her administration is doing absolutely everything that we can to stem the violence, but the city council and neighborhood officials are growing restless. At least 16,000 people have been shot so far in Chicago in 2021, an 11% increase compared to 2020 and a 58% increase compared to 2019, according to the Chicago Police Department's crime statistics for the week ending in June 28th. So yes, this is all political at this point. We can sit down and say that this is all political. Lightfoot didn't want the Trump strike force in there because they might hand him the win, but Now they can't sit and continue to let violence go on like this under the Biden admin because it might look bad for the Biden admin. All right, another one here. Lightfoot welcomes federal strike force amid increase in Chicago gun violence. No author given from NBC5. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot says she welcomes federal help in addressing gun violence in the city, but she pushed back Monday against the idea that having the National Guard come into the picture in law enforcement capacity. Lightfoot, speaking at a press availability, says that she supports a variety of federal responses to the problem of gun violence, including additional strike force teams offered by President Biden, along with resources from the FBI and other agencies. We've been in conversation with them about our sense of urgency around getting these resources up and activated, she said. I think the primary thing they're going to do is really build upon the work that's already being done in conjunction with our federal partners and CPD. Lightfoot says her focus is largely on stopping gun trafficking, which she blamed for bringing illegal weapons into the city. Making sure that the U.S. Attorney's Office, the ATF, and other federal resources are really focused on stopping gun trafficking will make a world of difference here in the city, she said. Okay. Stop. Full stop. Back the fuck up. So, once again, Mayor Lightfoot, you are going to go and blame others for your problems. And yes, you might come out with this point and say, okay, I'm going to stop all the gun violence in my city. And you're not going to address the stabby violence that's going to come after this. So you're going to go blame whoever's bringing the guns into Chicago. But you're not going to sit down and talk about the fact that people are still finding ways to go and kill each other. And if you really think you're going to stem the flow of guns that are in Chicago, not to mention the guns that are already there, you've got another thing coming. I don't understand what these people think, except that they go blame everybody else for the problems that are inherent in their city, and have been for years beyond. I mean, this is not a Lightfoot problem. Lightfoot might have exacerbated it at this point, but this is a long-time problem. I don't go to Chicago for a reason. Anyway, that's what we have going on for this. Shifting gears, talking about Texas here. U.S. Customs officers crack open peanut shells with meth inside, headed to Texas. From CBS DallasFortWorth.com staff. Officers with CBP cracked a narcotic smuggling case when they found methamphetamine inside individual peanut shells in a shipment on its way from Mexico to East Texas. It happened on June 29th at an express consignment hub in Memphis, Tennessee. My experienced officers long ago lost all surprise at smuggling methods they encounter every shift, said Area Port Director Michael Nieport. Narcotics and fruit, nuts, baked goods, shoes, toys, all kinds of other items disguised as gifts or other legitimate shipments fly through at the express consignment world. These days you can get a gram of methamphetamine at half the price of what cocaine costs and at twice the potency. I'm proud that we are able to keep the shipment from getting to its destination. The package was disguised with a logo that read, Regional bread, roasted peanuts, regional dust, sweet made of corn. Officials noticed something suspicious about the shipment after running it through an X-ray. Upon opening the package, they found individual bags of peanuts and various food prep materials. However, after cracking open a peanut, officers discovered a white crystal substance hidden inside a shell. Test results revealed that the substance was methamphetamine. The total weight seized was 489 grams, which CPP officials averaged out to be approximately 2,445 doses. How much money was that? You know what? No, I was going to Google that, but yeah, that's probably going to get me put on a list somewhere if I do. Because my ATF agent is going to look at that and say, what the fuck, dude? Never mind. All right, we got to throw some Fs up in the chat for the Florida building over here from NBC News. Death toll rises to 94. In Florida building collapse, workers work to identify victims grows harder. Yeah, I'm sure they're pretty smushed by this point. From Alicia Fieldstad. The remains of 4 more people have been recovered from the rubble in the Champlain Towers in Surfside, Florida, that partially collapsed last month, raising the confirmed death toll to 94. And officials say victim identification was growing more challenging the deeper crews dig into the debris. Of the 94 confirmed dead, 83 victims have been identified and 80 of those families notified. Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Gava said on Monday. Police and the medical examiner are working around the clock to identify each victim, she said, but recovery at this point is yielding human remains as opposed to bodies, making the process more difficult. Oh, yeah, that's actually probably a good idea, Helton. Hey, my NSA agent who's watching this right now, hop in the live chat and tell me how much 489 grams of methamphetamine is on street value. Because I'm curious. And I don't want to Google it because then you'll come down and fucking nail me for it. So just put it in there. We won't judge you over here. Thanks, Ron. That was a good idea. Identifying the remains is methodical, careful, and it does take time, Levine Cava said, adding that she recognized that waiting loved ones were in anguish. I'm sure they are. But really, honestly, if you haven't heard from your relative in the Surfside Tower at this point, then you might want to start doing funeral planning. I hate to say it. And I hope that there's hope. And I hope some of these people still get recovered alive. But, wet weather, Florida heat, under rubble. It's been 2 weeks. It's unlikely at this point. So I think everybody else is either going to be found and confirmed to be dead and confirmed who they are, or buried and lost forever in the towers. But F's in the chat. All right, from Twitter here, let's talk about the Mel Gibson thing. So, is that Mel Gibson saluting President Trump? Let's see. I don't see it, actually. Let's mute that, because that's really fucking loud. Is that him? I don't see it. But they made a big deal out of it anyway. From Newsweek. Video of Mel Gibson saluting Donald Trump viewed over 500,000 times. From Andre J. Ellington. A viral video is making the rounds that shows that actor Mel Gibson apparently saluting Donald Trump at the star-studded UFC 264 fight between Conor McGregor and Dusty Poirier on July 10th. The video, originally posted by the conservative outlet The Columbia Bugle on Twitter, shows the controversial actor and director gesturing to Trump as the security team whisks the former president away. Other video from the event shows Gibson in the same black-collared shirt, and Snopes later confirmed the validity of the video. Who cares? Who cares? And this was, of course, a huge deal because Mel Gibson waved at Trump. Mel Gibson made The Passion of the fucking Christ. I probably shouldn't have said the F word in the middle of that title. But Mel Gibson made that movie. He is, of course, going to be a Christian conservative, and Christian conservatives tend to worship the former president. And I'm sure they knew each other from prior to this, too. This isn't even a major story, except for the fact that evil Mel Gibson waved to evil Donald Trumpler. This is a completely non-story. Let's keep going. This one came to us from the Discord. I thought you guys would find interesting. And Golden Leaf also thought that you guys would find this interesting. Lightning strikes, kills 18 selfie takers on tourist tower in Jaipur. From Hannah Sparks. A lightning strike killed 18 people on Sunday when a bolt blasted a watchtower where tourists were snapping storm selfies in Jaipur, India. That's called natural selection, folks. There were a total of 27 individuals at the top of the 12th century Aymer Fort, the popular tourist attraction where the strike occurred, according to the BBC. Some of the victims leapt to the ground as the lightning came down, and law enforcement officials have reported that most of them were young people. Yeah, they were taking selfies in front of the storm. I'm guessing that they weren't planning on living very long anyway. Video captured by Reuters TV partner ANI showed empty shoes left by the dead. Many people died in front of our eyes. If people had gotten help and authorities reached on time, then they would have been alive, an eyewitness told ANI. We brought many people down. We rescued people who were still alive, those who were still breathing, and pulled some out of the gorge. Dozens more people were killed as a result of the storm system that tore through northern India. 9 more deaths occurred at Rajasthan state, where Jaipur is located. At least another 41 people died in the state of Uttar Pradesh, plus 7 others in Madhya Pradesh. Yeah. If you're gonna try to take your selfie with lightning and you get struck, I have a really hard time feeling sorry for you. But thank you, Goldenly, for that. And remember, the Discord server is flashing in the chat every once in a while. If you guys want to contribute to the show and get your articles read, just put them in the Discord server. So come and join us. Plus, we can have the conversation about them as well. My friend Midget B might put a Star of David under it if he doesn't like it. A little bit more international news here for you. At least 52 dead in Iraq COVID ward fire. This comes with no author. Nasiriyah, Iraq. At least 52 people died and 22 were wounded when a massive fire engulfed the coronavirus isolation ward of an Iraqi hospital Monday, a health official said. The fire broke out at Al Hussein Hospital in the southern Iraqi city of Nasiriyah late Monday and was brought under control by local civil defense forces. A medical source told the health directorate told AFP the main reason behind the fire was the explosion of oxygen tanks. Haydar al-Zamili, the local health authority spokesperson, said early Tuesday 52 bodies were retrieved and another 22 people were wounded in the latest toll after the fire had ripped through the COVID isolation ward. The victims died of burns and the research is continuing, he added, noting that there were fears that people could still be trapped inside the building. The ward had space for 70 beds. The deadly hospital blaze is the second such fire in Iraq in 3 months. Outside the hospital, dozens of young demonstrators protested. The political parties have burned us, they shouted in unison. The fire also prompted furious calls on social media for the resignation of top officials. Local authorities imposed a state of emergency in Dhikar Governorate, of which Nasiriyah is the capital, and ordered doctors to leave to help treat the injured. Prime Minister Mustafa El-Kadhimi held an emergency meeting with ministers and security heads to find out the cause of the fire, his office tweeted on Tuesday. I've got my ideas about this. I can't confirm whether or not this is true or not, but I've got my ideas. Especially if it's in a COVID ward, I think that it'll come out and say, and yeah, the stats will all say they died of COVID. I think because it's a COVID ward, a lot of this was stop the spread. Now they've got all their COVID patients in one area, and now we can just eliminate the virus. Isn't that nice? I can't confirm that. I can't come out and say that, yes, this is what happened, but given the way that Iraq and the Muslim world works, it wouldn't surprise me either. Somebody could come down with point-blank evidence and say, well, this was a terrorist attack meant to slow down the spread of the coronavirus, and say, okay, cool. You want to go grab lunch somewhere? I'm hungry. All right. I got just a couple more here, then we will do Twitter trending here. Several tied to Haiti assassination plot were previously U.S. law enforcement informants. From Evan Perez. Several of the men involved in the assassination of Haiti's president previously worked as U.S. law enforcement informants, according to people briefed on the matter as U.S. investigators grapple with an increasing number of Florida links to the alleged hit squad. Haitian President Jovenel Moise was killed last Wednesday in an operation that Haitian authorities say involved at least 28 people, many of them Colombian mercenaries hired through a Florida-based security company. At least one of the men arrested in connection to the assassination by Haitian authorities previously worked as an informant for the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, the DEA said in a statement in response to CNN. At times, one of the suspects in the assassination of Haitian President Jovenel Moise was a confidential source to the DEA said in a statement. Following the assassination of President Moise, the suspect reached out to his contacts at the DEA. A DEA official assigned to Haiti urged the suspect to surrender to local authorities and, along with the U.S. State Department official, provided information to the Haitian government that assisted in the surrender and the arrest of the suspect and one other individual, the DEA said. Clinton? Is this Clinton's kind of stuff? Because this has the air of Clinton, especially with the U.S. ties to it. So, definitely something to come back and watch for this. I'd be a little bit more interested to see some of the information come of this. I think I'm going to save this one, and we'll dig into this a little bit deeper and talk a bit more about this tomorrow, because I know we're running up on the clock here. And now that I'm into this more and know that it's the DEA, I thought it was just some Florida whack job or somebody that fled to Florida. Now that I know the DEA is involved, I have a lot more questions. So let's put a bookmark here. Let's save this one. There we go. We'll put the bookmark here. We'll come back to this one tomorrow. We'll circle back, as Jen Psaki likes to say. And the last one comes to us from the Associated Press. Coming to you because I'm a video game guy. I always have been, and you guys know that. Unopened Super Mario 64 game from 1996 sells for $1.56 million. No author given, apparently. An unopened copy of Nintendo's Super Mario 64 has sold at auction for $1.56 million. Heritage Auctions in Dallas said the 1996 video game sold Sunday, breaking its previous record price for the sale of a single video game. A spokesman did not immediately respond to an inquiry about who purchased the game. Yeah, I'm sure not. Super Mario 64 was the best-selling game on the N64, the first to feature the Mario character in 3D, the auction house said in the statement. That's not actually true. Actually, no, I gotta think about when they came out. Because if Mario RPG for the Super Nintendo came out before Mario 64, then technically Mario RPG was the first one to feature the Mario character in a 3D game. And I know they still ran a couple titles on the Super Nintendo after the N64 came out. The sale follows an unopened copy of Nintendo's The Legend of Zelda, starting at auction Friday for $870,000. Valerie McClecky, a Heritage video game specialist, said the auction house was shocked to see a game sell for more than $1 million 2 days after the Zelda game broke its past record. In April, the auction house sold an unopened copy of Nintendo's Super Mario Bros. That was bought in 1986 and forgotten about in a desk drawer for $660,000. Yeah, there's the Legend of Zelda one that sold for $870,000. So, yeah, apparently there's big money in video games, which I'm not surprised to see this at what point, because you're never ever going to see an unopened copy of these games again from the original run. I mean, Nintendo could make another run and go back and steal them, but the fact that somebody had one of these that was unopened, it's a rarity. It's a museum piece at this point. To see it how we saw it in the stores. But, yeah, that's cool. All right, let's go do some Twitter trending and head out of here for the day, because I'm hungry. And I can't cook on the stove yet because there's no hood in there yet. And we're not getting a hood until I fix the drywall. So, I got some stuff to do here. But we're going to go do trending here. We're head out of here for the day. As always on Tuesday, we open up Twitter trending. We look at what's trending for the day. We skip the Tuesday vibes and we look at the top 5 trends. Number 1 is Portfolio Day. Didn't we run into Portfolio Day last year too? Is it just always on a Tuesday? What's the deal? Portfolio Day. Hi, I'm Portuguese concept artist based in Lisbon. I love painting environments in the fantasy and sci-fi genre. So, of course, and we saw this last year too, Portfolio Day is a day of people coming together and putting out their art portfolios for people to admire and say, that's cool. Which, I mean, this one I kind of like. I'm not going to lie. We're going to put a like on that one because I like that one. Bees, flowers, nothing literary, which I would like literary, but I mean, there's still some cool stuff here. 3D motion and graphic artist. I like that one too. So there's your Portfolio Day. Go ahead and check out some of these portfolios. These are really good. I like this. J. Edgar likes this. Next one, we'll skip Tuesday vibe, is June. Army discusses RM's new haircut and sends him questions as the BTS member hosts a V-Live. This is K-pop, and I don't know what any of this means. Let's listen to what this guy's got to say.
2020 last year was enough, literally. 2020 was enough. So
after this pandemic shit, get the hell out. COVID, get the hell out.
Get the hell out. Okay. So, no idea what's going on there. All right. Next one. AMC Day. Individual investors celebrate another community-created AMC Day by holding and buying shares of the stock to send it higher. When you hear it's AMC Day and you have a swim meet to go to, Apes at the Pool, AMC Queens. Nice. JP Morgan warns hedge funds to expect intraday margin calls. So yeah, it looks like they tried to short sell AMC again, and now they're gonna try to blow that one back up to the moon. I hope some of you guys have some stock in AMC, and I hope you have some Bitcoin too, and some Doge. I have Doge. I hope the rest of you guys have a little bit too. So this is all people who are sitting here staying on their AMC stock. All right, what else do we have here? The next one. What are we on? 2, 3, 4. National French Fry Day. Happy National French Fry Day. New York City restaurant breaks world record with fancy $200 French fries. No. But there's a Shar-Pei eating a French fry. That's kind of cool. I like that. Maybe I'll have to go get some fries today. I don't eat a lot of fries because I don't care for a lot of potatoes. But maybe I'll have to go and get some fries today just for the fun of it. Because it's National French Fry Day. I've been craving them a little bit lately, so maybe we can go do that. Yeah, I think that's got to happen. So we'll go do that later on. All right, and then the last one that we'll do for the day is Pekka Rinne. Nashville Predators goaltender and franchise icon Pekka Rinne announced his retirement from the NHL today following a decorated 15-year career. So, and I don't do a lot of hockey. I've thought about getting into it because it's the most base sport. And, I mean, as you'll notice, the Red Sox flag is no longer behind me because I couldn't do that after they started doing their stupid shit. But, I mean, hockey is pretty based, so I should start paying attention to it, but I know it's a low-scoring thing. It's just people going back and forth at this point. And, I mean, it's the same reason I don't really watch soccer. But, you know, to see some of the fights, to see some of this go on, maybe I should start getting into it. Maybe I'll become a Blackhawks fan. Wouldn't that excite all my Chicago friends? But congratulations, Pekka Rinne, for your retirement. Hope you find some peace in retirement. Hope you find some fun. Well, you're probably rich, too. So we'll see what happens there. All right, and just in time, because my phone just hit 5% too. So I think at this point, we're going to head out of here, and I'm going to go have a nice, long conversation with Restream and tell them, hey, what the fuck? Where's the music? Let's get some music up here. Change the scene, change the scene. Let's get some music up. Let's get out of here. All right. Thank you, everybody who joined me over on the YouTube side, by the way, because we had no Twitch or DLive or Facebook or Trovo today. So thanks everybody who stayed dedicated to us here. I'm going to see if I can get this fixed so we can get back on all the platforms tomorrow here. But you know, it's nice that we can still have this backup. And I actually wrestled with it and decided, okay, which platform am I going to put this on? Because you know, everybody's been so dedicated on all the platforms, but YouTube is the one that's going to put the automatic playback up there that I don't have to do any extra work for. So that's the one that we're going to stick with here. So hopefully we can be back on your favorite platform tomorrow, including Twitch, where I'm actually monetized. So definitely looking forward to that. Otherwise, come back and join me here on YouTube if we can't get everything back up and running, because even if we can't get anything else back up and running, there will always be Contemporary on weekend mornings. So we will see you guys here tomorrow for more Contemporary. The links for all the other alt platforms, by the way, are in the description. So go and hit all those too. Just make sure that you pop in there, because if something does go bad, you'll get an alert on one of the other ones. So yeah, absolutely. Come back in, hang out with us tomorrow for more Contemporary. Until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.